really well. Namaskar, Namaskara, and most importantly, Merry Christmas to everyone. And I hope that your Christmas, the Santa Claus gives you all the gifts related to your exam results and whatever positive and legitimate you are aspiring. The word legitimate is very important because you can aspire for anything which might be illegitimate also in nature. So legitimate and positive things which you aspire in your career, life, you should get it. Today, the speed of the news would be a little high because we have to cover a lot of news today. And and I've added a bit of news which was not in the Hindu, which I got from a little bit from outside. We will talk about that. So first of all, Merry Christmas to everyone, and hope everyone is really doing very, very well. So first of all, let's move to the OGP 2026 batch 1 is starting on 2nd January 2025 under the guidance of Vinay sir, who is the founder and director of Insights IAS. This OGP program would include GS, CSAT and SA, and for all details you can scan the QR code. And most importantly, when it comes to prelims, mains, prelims course coming, Conquer course coming, mains test series, prelims test series, and multiple course which Insights IAS offers, you can directly call on this number and get all the details. 80 69 40 5205. This is the number which should be in your phone. Please put this number in a phone for any details related to Insight courses and how you want to join. You can always call on this number. So with this positive thought, with this positive message on the courses, let's move towards what is Mahendra Singh Dhoni saying. My goal is not to be better than anyone else, but to be better than how I used to be. This is, I personally very much like this quote, that we know all in the life we keep comparing ourselves to others. This person has got an iPhone, this person has, he's probably will become a millionaire, billionaire. We keep comparing our lives. We should not be keep comparing our lives, rather comparison should be with us. It also happens in our family that our parents are also keep comparing us with the neighbors, son, daughters. To an extent of comparison in the terms of one person has become successful, the comparison should be positive and constructive in nature. And most importantly, when it comes to you, you should be a better version. When you started the UPSC journey from the first day, what was your knowledge and what is the knowledge after the 6 months? That should be your focus. If your focus is like that daily improvement is important in you, you should be a better version compared to the previous one. For example, you did not clear the prelims, next attempt you clear, and obviously then mains and interview, everything happens and you get a stupendous result. So I am not saying that it should be first prelims, then mains, then interview. I am not suggesting that strategy. I am trying to suggest that you should be keep improving, find your mistakes, eliminate those mistakes, learn from those mistakes, find those learnings and focus and keep improving. And then how you become Mahendra Singh Dhoni, Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli, Sachin Tendulkar, all these greats of cricket, all the greats of other sports, they find their mistakes and then works on them. So with this positive thought process, let's move to important news. Invisible hand fueling violence in Manipur. Very important statements have come from the Chief Justice of Manipur High Court, who has just retired. Supreme Court, government must ape private sector insecure gig work conditions. So gig work conditions. So there's a news how one of the departments of government, how it did not give the proper benefits to the one of the gig workers, and this entire case surrounds around this, and Supreme Court says that how private companies treat gig workers, that is not exactly the way that the government should treat. Government has much more socio-economical problems, socio-economical condition and socio-economical promises, and that is why it's a government which needs to do those promises. Government is not here for a profit making compared to the private companies. Now is the time to exorbitate inflation. RBI bulletin article, in this article categorically Reserve Bank of India says we need to reduce the inflation. Inflation is the key problem which is happening in the economy, and the urban spending is not increasing, and one of the major reason is inflation. We'll talk about that. China and Pakistan, the fighter jet story. This is the flash story of today, the lead story of today. We'll start with that Pakistan might not even have, single rupee to buy atta, but they have all the money to buy fighter jets. So we'll talk about that. In prelims decode, we'll talk about gig workers. Who are gig workers? This is basically related to the Supreme Court news. And editorial, India-China reset needs to bold and new thinking. Now in this editorial, the thinker or the author has spoken very positive, this can happen, that can happen. When we come to this editorial, you and me both will get to know, sir, this is very difficult to do because of the Chinese intention and it's a dragon with a forked tongue. We need to be very cautiously optimistic. So these are the important news of the today which we will cover. Let's move to the first important news, between China and Pakistan, the fighter jet. See the smile of, Shehbaz Sharif, how smiling he is, because he knows that he has gone to the ATM and now he will get that money which he does not need to pay. So it is like salary of Pakistan on daily basis or on the monthly basis, on yearly basis, which keeps coming from China. You see the smile which is coming, and obviously he would be very happy because he is trying to get around 40 fifth generation fighter jets. What are fifth generation fighter jets? Fifth generation fighter jets, F-35 is an example, J-35 is an example. So this China has copied the name also, like F-35, at least they could have given a different name. They copied the last two numbers also. And it is also told that this fifth generation fighter jet of China, J-35, this jet has been aped and mimicked and copied, and most of its technology was stolen from the fifth generation fighter aircraft of the America. That is your this is the J-35. So if you see these two planes, can you see there are similarities? It looks same also. There's a thing called that even if you're copying, there has to be some brains how to copy. But China really doesn't care. The plane is similar looking. Okay, this is your F-35 and this is your J-35. It is told that much of the technology of F-35, the important, confidential or the critical technology was stolen of F-35, and that is what J-35 has. So J-35 is a fifth generation aircraft. India does not have a fifth generation aircraft. If I talk about the countries which have fifth generation aircraft, the number is just 4. Russia, Americans, South Koreans and China. Only 4 countries have this fifth generation aircraft. Why fifth generation aircraft is important? Because the blip on the radar, basically the radar is not able to check. Radar is not able to find if this J-35 or the fifth generation fighter aircraft is flying. For example, a fifth generation aircraft is entering India and a fourth generation aircraft is entering India. The radar would be able to capture the fourth generation, and then simultaneously, surface to air missiles would be shot behind this fourth generation and it would be taken down. But the fifth generation, the blip on the radar would be so small, or most of the times the fifth generation aircraft, the radar will not be able to capture it because of speed, strength and stealth. And because of this becomes a huge danger. So if say hundreds of this J-35 are entering India, the problem is that our radar will not be able to capture it, and once it enters India, it then decimate a lot of important areas, strategic points, military installments, military complexes, army, navy, air force, and various areas, and obviously the general public. That is the problem with the fifth generation aircraft. Did you get that? What's the problem? So now India does not have it. Pakistan also does not have it. Now China has made this J-35 and it claims it is even better than F-35. Now, first of all, J-35 has not been tested. J-35 in this recent years only it has come in the news, and Chinese claims as always that we are the best, this is the best plane and everything. Nobody knows about it. It has not been war tested. The important word is it's not been war tested. It has also not been tested by other countries. Only China claims that this is a top stealth fighter aircraft. So, for example, it can be totally wrong also and it can be totally right, which we don't know. Now, Pakistan is planning to buy 40 of these J-35 jets. Now, if Pakistan gets these 40 of these J-35 jets, then it's a huge problem. India does not have it. So, you need to understand, if India does not have it, China has these jets and Pakistan has these jets. This is a tremendous effort to do it's like we talk about 2.5 warfare. In 2.5, 0.5 is the internal and 2 is China and Pakistan. Now, China and Pakistan, they can launch these J-35 planes from both the sides, and if our radar are not able to capture it, then we are gone. That is the problem of it. So now the major problem comes, like Pakistan does not even have money to buy, wheat, rice, food items. And recently the Admiral Tripathi on the eve of Navy Day had said that these people do not even have basic money or basic economy to buy food items, but they are planning to increase their naval fleet also. Same is the case with the Air Force fleet. Now, why Pakistan is trying to do it? Because they have old Mirage planes and old F-16s. Now, this fleet, F-16 and Mirage, this has been depleted and this cannot match the current Indian Air Force standards. So that is why they are planning to get these 40 J-35 from China. First thing. Second important thing will happen, obviously this will give them a lot of advantage over India, because India is also working on its 5th generation aircraft, but that would take around 10-15 years to come. So in these 10-15 years, if Pakistan gets these jets, Pakistan and China will have a lot of advantage over India. So that would be a major problem. That would be a major escalation in this South Asia, that China and Pakistan from both the sides having these jets. So they can obviously, they'll get a lot of edge over us in terms of air warfare. We also need to realize when it came to Russia-Ukraine war, when it came to Israel-Hamas, Israel-Houthis, and for that matter, Israel-Hezbollah, the importance of air power is very important, and giving your adversary an advantage of 5th generation aircraft would be very detrimental to India. It will be very good for India that if India can talk to China, since we are trying to rebuild our relationship, that it does not give these jets to Pakistan. Second problem, how Pakistan will pay for these jets. Obviously, Pakistan does not have money, I just told you. So Pakistan will most importantly take one more amount of loan from China. And since it's an iron brotherhood relationship between China and Pakistan, so they might take one more loan and buy these jets. So this is the problem with the country, that they don't have food, but they keep buying weapons and missiles. So that is not the case with India. Our socio-economic conditions, standard of living, everything is improving. And apart from that, we are strengthening our security and defense parameter. So this is the major news which I want to cover in the start. And that is why I've covered China and Pakistan, the fighter jets crisis for India. And this is something which I wanted you to know. Okay, so rest of the details I've covered in these slides. You can go through aircraft, overview of comparison, global standings, and everything. The brief which I gave it to you, or the verbally which I told you, everything has been covered here. These are the claims and concerns. You know, the claims are that J-35 is the best. Concern is that it has not been tested. Nobody, America, Australia, India, most of the countries have just heard what China has said in its papers. Nobody has tested it. Nobody has seen that it is in a war exercise except China. Nobody knows about that. And Pakistan is planning to buy. And obviously Pakistan is planning to buy from China because it does not have money to buy from the America. And most importantly, America will not even sell it. So even that, if Pakistan gets money to buy it from some loans, America will not sell it because it will escalate the condition in the South Asia. And with the Trump coming part, the elected President Trump taking the seat on January 20th, 2025, he will not be interested in giving these weapons. And for that matter, recently the America has also said that the ballistic missile program of Pakistan is a huge threat to South Asia, Southeast Asia, because Pakistan has always been in proliferation. Earlier it was doing this nuclear, they were giving this nuclear technology, they gave the nuclear bomb technology to the North Korea, and probably they will even give the ballistic missile technology to the West Asia. And because of this, the entire disturbance in the West Asia can increase. We are trying to get to the stabilization. Some kind of stabilization can be seen in Syria and even in the Israel-Iran war. So, but if these kind of technology come, destabilization will increase. So with this, let's move towards the important questions related to this. And one more important thing which I want to talk about is that what is the problem with India? Now, India, for example, I've just told you, if India make the 5th generation aircraft, and there is one important thing which I want to talk about, AMCA. Now, AMCA has been lagging with HAL for years and decades now. So if India starts making it, it will take around 10, 15, 20 years, because this is a very top class technology. It takes time. So for example, in 2025, and we get our 5th generation aircraft by say 2035 or 2040, which is even earlier. For this 10, 15 years, we cannot give the advantage to Pakistan, because Pakistan can get these J-35 within 2 years. So if they get by 2027, so 2027 to 2040, they can have a lot of geopolitical and strategic advantage. So that cannot be given to Pakistan. So how in these 15 years, what we can do, either we have to do two important things. First of all, we need to fill this gap of 5th generation aircraft by buying F-35 from America or the 5th generation aircraft, whichever country supplies this. This has to be done so that we have at least, we need 2 squadrons. One squadron has 15 to 20 fighter jets. So if we have at least 2 squadrons, that would be around, say around 35 to 40 jets. So at least 2 squadrons are bare minimum. I am talking about 2 squadrons are needed. So once these 2 squadrons are there, this will fetch you the immediate need for 10 to 15 years. And in the remaining 15 years, we need to work on this AMCA, we need to work on our 5th generation aircraft in the 10-15 years. So in 15 years, that fighter jet can be there, and for those 15 years, this plug-in of buying from outside can be done. This is a strategy which can be done. Did you understand what we can do? So for now, we can buy, and for that, for 10-15 years, we can stretch it, and those 10-15 years, we also do our R&D on the technology and develop it. So this was certain thing which I wanted to talk about it. So let's go to the prelims question. The J-35 is a 5th generation stealth fighter jet developed by China. Correct statement. Pakistan will be the first country to acquire J-35 jets if the deal is finalized. Correct. 5th generation jets are currently operated only by United States, Russia, South Korea and China. See, South Korea is in this. Nobody would have thought South Korea has it, but South Korea has. Why South Korea has? Because they are sitting next to North Koreans, which is a nuclear bomb technology, and they also have ballistic missiles. So all the 3 statements are correct. Next is your questions related to main. Discuss the implication of Pakistan acquisition of Chinese J-35 fighter jets on India's regional security and Air Force modernization. So obviously a lot of angle is there. You can take the help from the PDF and what I've told and write the answer. Now let's move to the next important news. Invisible hand fueling violence in Manipur. So very important statements have come the statement has come from Justice Siddharth Mridul, who retired as the Chief Justice of Manipur High Court on 11th of November and raised concerns about invisible hand orchestrating the violence. He said that whenever Manipur moves towards stabilization, certain stabilization is coming, and within 1-2 months, again something erupts. He says that there is an invisible hand behind it. Question to all of you, which country do you think is the invisible behind it? Is it Americans? Is it Pakistan? Or is it China? Now, Pakistan, American seems to be very far, regarding this. Pakistan, we already know, if they would be doing anything, it would be under the suggestions and under the order of China. And which country wants to take Northeast? Which country wants to take Arunachal Pradesh? And which country will get an advantage if the Northeast is in turmoil? Obviously, the hand is China. Obviously, the name of the country was not taken, but it seems that China might be behind it. Okay, because right now the Bangladeshis are also talking to China. They're also talking to Americans. In Bangladesh crisis, it is said that the deep state of America might have been involved, because Sheikh Hasina had given a statement that a foreigner had come and they were asking for one important port from Bangladesh, and if Sheikh Hasina would have given that port, the government would have continued. This is a statement which keeps coming. So Bangladesh angle might be the Americans would be there, but now China is trying to have good relationship with Muhammad Yunus, and a destabilized Northeast works very much in favor of China, because China has been supporting the Northeast insurgency in terms of weapons, in terms of drugs. The weapons might be coming from the black market, the Tibetan arms black market, can come from that side. Even also the influence of China in Myanmar in the military junta is very high, so they might also be supplying. And if you see the border of Myanmar and Manipur, it's a very porous border. And this problem which has happened in Kuki, Zo and Methi community, now how are these people getting weapons? So the weapons are coming across the border from Myanmar. And if you see the angle of Myanmar, Laos, Thailand, all these countries form a golden triangle, which is the epicenter of drugs, which is an epicenter of drug trafficking, weapons trafficking. So this money is coming from there, weapons are coming from there, and China might be, I'm using the word might be, fueling this for its legitimate or not legitimate, its strategic advantage over this entire area. So this statement has come that there's a pattern of conflict. Fresh violence reignites the conflict. The source of the disruption remains unclear. And even after 60,000 of security forces in Manipur, Manipur still remains unstabilized. That's the one of the biggest problems. Security forces are there, center is there, state is there. Even after all this, we have not been able to find peace there. More than 60,000 people have been internally displaced. They have gone to other states of the northeast and putting a lot of lot of pressure on the other states, because every state has basic amount of resources, and if you keep supplying population to it, there is a discord which starts happening on the resources and also on the people. Okay. So I would be taking all the comments at the last, because otherwise the flow will get down. So don't worry, I will be taking the comments. Okay. So whenever the peace appears within the reach, fresh violence reignites the conflict. Now, despite the deployment of 60,000 troops, the problem continues. And other major important problems are hyperinflation is there. What is hyperinflation? This is your hyperinflation when inflation increases by more than 50%. It is characterized by inflation rate of more than 50%. Monthly, the inflation is increasing. Unemployment is very high. Except government jobs in Manipur, there are no jobs. There are no industries. So obviously, at this point of time, no industry will go. And then the basic problem of Kuki versus Methi, ST status, and all these problem comes, because most of the government jobs and the out of the 60 strength of MLA, 40 are Methis, and most of the government jobs, universities, and if the government is dominated by the Methis, then the issue of population is there, issue of religion is there, Hindu versus Christian, then the issue of disinformation, misinformation, warfare is there. There is a multiple angles which is happening in this entire the tribal war which I am talking about, not tribal from the point of Kuki, Metis are non-tribal, which is happening. So the government needs to sit, talk and find a solution with the help of the security forces, and recently AFSPA has also been again put in Manipur. So hyperinflation, soaring unemployment, these are the major problems. And hyperinflation is a situation where the price of goods and services increase rapidly and uncontrollably. So people don't have, the inflation has increased, unemployment is high, logistical struggles are there, access to valley is limited, handful of flights are there. Even the Chief Justice said that he got his vegetables from Delhi to Manipur. Once he got his vegetables from Delhi to Manipur, because there is a shortage of vegetables. So this is a problem which is the Chief Justice of Manipur has handling. He has faced. Chief Justice of a state was facing it. So if this is the condition of Chief Justice of Manipur, just think about it, what would be the problem of common man in Manipur. Okay, so around 60,000 people are living in relief camp. Many people have been clear. Displaced individual express a desire to return, but the problem is that security has to be given. Now the Chief Justice says that that these internally displaced people, IDPs, personal security needs to be given, but that becomes very tough. It is easier said than done. Probably the strength of security forces are very high, but there are multiple duties which security forces would be doing. So he is suggesting adequate security measures should be provided to ensure the safe return of displaced individuals. Obviously, it has to be done, but before that, it should be made sure that there is a peace or a ceasefire happens between Metis and Kukis, and a stabilization period of 1 to 2 months happens, and then these IDPs can come. Because if you get them and suddenly the violence starts again, then it's a huge problem which will escalate into a lot of things. So deploying security personnel to individually protect. Now, individually protecting every person is very difficult. Okay, the population is very high. How would you individually give security to every person? This is humanly not possible, right? Just think about it, that everyone in Bangalore city or Delhi city getting one security personnel for security. Not possible, but at least if not one person, at least some community can be seen by 4 to 5 personnel. So restoration of peace and order is very important. The justice was also saying that we are waiting for the conflict. Conflict fatigue is that this is a word which is used in conflict studies also, that if two communities are fighting each other, after a point of time the fatigue will come that we don't want to fight, we have done it, a lot of people have been killed on both the sides. So it's like a revolution. Okay, so it's a bell curve of the revolution. Earlier the revolution will go high and eventually the energy will come down and it will dissipate. So justice is saying that we should be the retired justice of Manipur High Court, that we should not be waiting for this conflict fatigue, that when the fatigue happens between Metis and Kukis, eventually this will mellow down. Eventually this entire problem which has come, it will go down the drains, or it will reduce. what we need to do is, rather than waiting for this, conflict fatigue, we need to find the resolution and solution to this problem. Central, state government and security forces need to find. And with the escalating situation, Myanmar and Bangladesh, we need to find the solution ASAP. And we were just discussing what has happened between China and Pakistan in terms of the 5th generation aircraft. In all this, it is important we find the solution ASAP, that is as soon as possible. Next important news is that the government must aid private sectors in secure gig work conditions, says Supreme Court. Okay. So in this news, Prelim decodes gig workers. They are individually engaged in the gig economy. So what is gig economy? For example, the people, your Zomato delivery boys, okay, your Swiggy delivery boys, people who work on day-to-day on construction, like construction workers who find day-to-day jobs. They're not part of the formal economy in the sense. They are part of the unorganized sector, if you see, because they might not be getting this PF and all those things when we work formally with a company, when we work in an organized sector. So they might be part of an organized sector, but their conditions remains like an organized one only. Okay, so they are temporary or flexible jobs instead of traditional full-time roles. So what Niti Aayog defines is that these gig workers are basically defined into two important parameters. So they are with two distinct subsets, that is platform workers and non-platform workers, individual engaged in working outside the traditional employer-employee setup. For example, say I am working at Insights IAS, this is a employer-employee setup. Now gig worker would be that Zomato person coming and delivering food, or that Swiggy workers coming. These are all gig workers. They have this flexible work shifts and they have temporary roles. Since they are temporary, they are exploited a lot also. In around, I think in newer day, a news came that a person was continuously delivering food items around Diwali for 24 hours to 48 hours, and the amount of money he made was around 320 rupees. And that post went viral, that a person who's working around for 48 hours during the Diwali, just making 320 rupees, and the amount of goods he had delivered was in lakhs. So that is the problem in gig workers. They are highly exploited. Now private companies are exploiting them, that we can understand, because the goal is profit. But the Supreme Court has given important statements on that also. But government doing is, that should not be there, because government goal is not profit, but it is the improvement in standard of living, socio-economic conditions and many other things. Now coming back to these gig workers, they are of two types, platform workers and non-platform workers. Platform workers like be Amazon, it can be Uber, it can be Amazon, Uber, or for one more example can be Urban Clap. For example, in Urban Clap, if you're trying to get a person for a haircut or a masseuse, or Amazon, the delivery person coming and everything. Now this depends upon that utilize online algorithm matching platforms like Amazon, Uber, like Urban Clap, you're booking something for the cleaning of your kitchen and everything. So they will try to find out who is available, and then you will get your order, and then you will start doing your duty. So this is also example of gig worker. Now this is so Urban Clap is there, gig worker is there. For example, a hairdresser is there. So hairdresser, Urban Clap, and you. So Urban Clap is the aggregator, okay, so it would be taking commission. So these people are not employees of Urban Clap, okay. They will not be getting PF and insurance and all those things. So these are gig workers, who have temporarily or they have put their papers, or they have some kind of agreement with Urban Clap that, if this kind of duty comes, we'll go. So if the 100 rupees is charged, 40 rupees or 30 rupees will go to Urban Clap, and 40-60 rupees will go to them. So these are the gig workers. Okay. The other are not platform workers, like construction day jobs. For example, you are constructing a job, and the workers come on day-to-day basis. Sometimes these workers keep changing. So they work on day-to-day basis. Whoever comes, they will go and work. So this is also kind of gig workers only. So India has the fifth largest population of gig economy workers, and by 2023 this could improve to the third place. So in this condition, it becomes very important that we have laws related to gig workers, and most importantly, government take care of all these people. Okay, so in this context, Supreme Court criticized the government of adopting exploitative employment practices since seen in the gig economy. Now private sector doing it for profit, we can still, there is still a problem, but we can understand it. But government doing that does not go very well. So Supreme Court has emphasized that we need to have uphold fairness and justice in the employment. We'll talk about this is related to one gardener. We'll talk about his problem also. So the Supreme Court highlighted issues in the private sector include lack of job security, absence of benefits and fair treatment, exploitation of workers and erosion of the labor standard. These are the problems which private sectors are facing, and Supreme Court has asked them that please take care of these problems. I'm very sure they would not be taking any care of them. Until an order or agreement or a law or an act comes, nothing will change specifically for the private companies. Now, this case relates to when it comes to government. The judgment arose from the cleaning and gardening staff employed at the Central Water Commission. Now, what happened is that CAT, which stands for Central Administrative Tribunal, and Delhi High Court, they said that this person was from a contract, okay, but he was working for a very long period of time. He was working for a very long period of time, but he was a contractual worker. So, CAT and the Delhi High Court said it classified them as part-time workers, cited absence of sanctioned post and non-fulfillment criteria of regularization. Now, this person who was working for a long period of time as a contractual labor, he was asking that I should be regularized. He was not regularized. He went to CAT. He went to Delhi High Court. He lost the cases because Delhi High Court and CAT said, as per the the order of the advertisement, you do not fulfill the eligibility criteria. Now, what Supreme Court has said on this judgment of CAT and the Delhi High Court is that first of all, they set aside the termination. They did not agree with CAT and Delhi High Court first. Second, ordered immediate regularization based on long-term services and indispensable duties which this person has done, that he has worked for a long period of time and done indispensable duties for the organization. Third, stated court should focus on realities of employment. So it said, Supreme Court has said to CAT and Delhi High Court, you just don't need to see the advertisement paper. You need to go into the deeper meaning of it. Just don't go by the letter of that advertisement. Rather, you need to understand that, what kind of conditions was there, how many years this person has been working, how much effort he has been putting. So we also need to understand. So there is a social aspect also, and there is a humanitarian aspect also in the Supreme Court judgment for understanding this gig workers problem. So these are the important problems which Supreme Court cited and trying to resolve, that we need to move from superficial labors like temporary, move out of this and think beyond this. This is a statement which has come from Supreme Court. So if we currently see in the gig economy trends, precarious means risky. Okay, so risky employment arrangements are there, lack of job stability and exploitation of workers. Multiple in private sector, these gig workers are exploited like anything. Now, Zomato owner doing these big shows, huge amount of profits. How is this huge amount of profits, or how is these huge amount of salaries being given? One is from the investor side. If the investor money is not coming, this entire money is coming from this, this low labor cost. These people for 48 hours, 24 hours, if they're working on Diwali and making just 240 rupees or 300, and Zomato is having sales of crore or lakhs on these kind of times, so the profit is going to the big bosses and the management. And this gig workers, they make peanuts. They make, peanuts, penny out of it, and they remains from where they started. So there is no improvement of these people. So this is happening in private sector, and Supreme Court is asking that we need to take care of it. I hope that in coming time, the government will create an important act regarding it. So it said the public sector responsibility must be there, and obviously it should be there. What private sector is doing, government should not start replicating, because private sector is trying to, I will not say subjugate, but harass these people, because these people who are working as gig workers, they don't have an act, they don't have, right now they don't have any law, so they can be, they can be harassed, or they can be used like anything. That is exactly what private sector is doing. So if private sector is doing, and even the government sector start doing it, then what's the difference between them? Government representatives are those people which we have chosen for ourselves, who will come and make those laws and act which would be beneficial not only for the rich people but also for the downtrodden people. So important statements have come from Supreme Court regarding this, and we also have commitments related to the ILO, and also understand that we have been a founding member of International Labour Organization, ILO. So employment stability, fair treatment of workers to prevent long-term unemployment, this is very important. And when India is a rising country, India wants to become a superpower, and every global power or global global West, or if you talk about the America and Western countries that are looking toward India, it is very important that our labor is not work like what Chinese do. The Chinese are harassing their own people and workers. They live in those, these containers which have these showers, and they don't have any life for 15 to 17 hours, those working. So this is what Chinese do to their own people and their own labor. We should not be doing it, right? At the end of the day, these people are Indian citizens. So, and when all these global companies would be coming to India and start working, and if Indian companies are treating like the labor like this, same would be done by the private companies or the multinational companies, because they realize if Indian companies are not taking care of their gig workers, we try to do the same thing, and the focus will be profit. So overall, it will not be a good picture. So regularization of workers, discourage exploitative practices, reinforce judiciary role is very important. The question is, discuss the implication of Supreme Court criticism of gig economy practice for public sector employment policy. So much has been covered in this news. You can take a lot of data information from here. So this is your Conquer Prelims 2025 course. This is starting on 6th January. For all details, you can also call on the number which I provided to you. This is very important for your UPSC Prelims 2025. Now, let's come to the next important news. That is the RBI news, which is coming on exorciate the inflation. Okay, again, so RBI is saying the main devil right now in the Indian economy is inflation. This was same said by former RBI Governor Shaktikanta Das. Now you have one new governor also, plus the RBI officials have said, please focus on controlling this inflation. That is the major devil which needs to be countered. So senior RBI official emphasized the need for immediate action to curb inflation and revive private investment. So inflation has to be reduced and private investment has to be increased, because when private investment increases, they start putting money in more projects, more people will get employment, they will get salaries, and the economy will start moving, because when people start getting more salaries, they will start paying their taxes, and this tax will go to the government, more schemes, defense spending, economic spending, this entire cycle will work. The problem is right now the inflation is very high, spending has reduced, the spending has reduced, plus the wages of people have not increased, that the salaries of people have not increased. For example, if my salary was 100 rupees and the price of rice was say 10 rupees per kg, okay, my salary is 100 rupees and monthly I'm just taking 1 kg of rice, 10 rupees. Now suddenly the price of that 1 kg, or over a period of time, the price of that 1 kg of rice has gone 50 rupees. Now my salary is still 100 rupees. Now my savings is only 50 rupees. Earlier my saving was say 90 rupees after 1 kg of rice. So since my 90 rupees has come down to 50 rupees, I would be spending very less on outside. This is a major problem which Indian economy is going through. Inflation very high, spending very less, salaries very low. And that is exactly this problem is trying to tackle, that salaries needs to be increased, private investment needs to be increased, and inflation needs to be brought down. And this is easier said than done, and RBI and the entire government fraternity would need to pull up their socks to find the solution to this. So India's GDP growth numbers, if you remember the last GDP growth number 5.4, 5.6% was very low, but it is said that for Q3 and Q4 2024-5, the numbers would be 6.8 and 6.5% respectively. If you remember, I told you at that point of time that the spending should increase, because this would be Q3, Q4 is your most of the festival times. If you remember, I had covered this in Daily Decode, and I told that these 5.4, 5.6%, this can be an aberration, because this has just happened twice. This is a statement of Nirmala Sitharaman also, that that whenever a new government comes, this problem happens because government spending reduces. So these numbers can improve, that is fine, but only good GDP numbers will just not suggest that the private spending has increased or food inflation has reduced. We also need to work with other problem. So growth is expected to stabilize at 6.7% for 2025 to 2026. Now this number of 6.7%, 6.8%, this is still very less from the number of 8.2% which we got after the COVID. But again, the rebuttal or the counterpoint to that is that that was an untapped energy in the Indian economy, or which came out, the spending suddenly increased because economy was more or less closed for 1 to 2 years. But again, to get to 8% would be very difficult, but at least above 7% would be a very good number. Okay, so inflation trends, the retail inflation is to 5.5% in November from 6.2%, it is coming down. But despite easing food prices, Despite easing food prices, input cost for manufacturing and service rose sharply in November, marking the fastest pace of price increases in 11 to 12 years. So food prices might be coming down, but the input cost, for example, if the food price is coming down, so inflation, see, basically, if inflation is coming down in A sector, it is increasing in B sector. If it is coming down in B sector, it is increasing in A sector. If it is coming down in A and B sector, it is increasing in C and D sector. This is a major problem. So if the food inflation has been controlled, manufacturing has increased. Now, for example, your rice prices has not increased from 10 rupees to 50 rupees. But if you wanted to buy a car, the car prices has increased because it will be coming from the manufacturing or automobile sector. So this is a problem. We need to find resolution and solution to both of these problems. Okay. So now consumption and demand has increased because of festival-led spending and improved rural demand. So this is a good part. Private consumption remains key driver for the economic recovery. Now, rural spending is very high. It has increased. Agricultural spending in rural areas has increased. This we have covered in previous decodes. But the problem is urban spending is not increasing. Why it is not increasing? Because big companies, I told you, Zomato and all these people, they are making big money. But these gig workers are making what? 250 rupees, 300 rupees, 400 rupees, when lakhs of business is generated or crores of business is generated. So people at top private companies, they are making money like anything. But the people in companies, they are not getting anything. They are getting, 1 rupee, 1 rupee, 50 paisa, 2 rupees. That is the problem. So people are making money in crores, and the top bosses and the staff is getting 1 rupee, 2 rupees. So if this is obviously, they are not getting 1, 2 rupees. That is just a statement. It's a rhetoric. I mean to say, their salaries have not increased from 20,000 to 30,000 or 40,000. It is from 20,000, and the annual appraisal is also around 3-4%, 20,000 to 21,000. But so you are moving from 20 to 21,000, but inflation is moving by 7%, 8%. So that is the major problem coming. Spending, you will be able to spend money only when your salaries have increased or it can match up to the inflation. Top bosses making money, very happy, keep making money, but start giving money to others. Otherwise, this problem will continue. So corporate sector erosion of purchasing power due to inflation shocks, weakened sales growth of non-financial corporation, slower corporate wage growth. This is the problem. And when I talk about the wage growth, I'm talking about the employees. I'm not talking of the top management people. They are making good amount of money. Apart from that, firms are reluctant to invest in new capital due to weak demand. Why there is a weak demand? Because again, people don't have money to buy goods. If they don't have money to buy goods, for example, say Apple want, or some XYZ company, they want to put a mobile factory for more production of phones. So they will only be putting up a factory when there is a demand of phone. For demand of phone, you need to have money to buy a phone. Since you don't have money to buy a phone, you cannot, there will be no demand. Since there will be no demand, no factory will come. Since there will be no factory, no new recruitment will happen. And since there is no new recruitment and job and workers, no amount of taxes will go to the government. So if you see, we are in a vicious circle, we are continuously failing. So inflation concerns, persistent price rise, inflation is eroding purchasing power, and allowing unchecked inflation could damage the real economy. These are the problems which we need to find the solution. Please tell what is your thought about it. I think we have discussed this multiple times in Daily Decodes. So since it's a very important article from RBI, I wanted to discuss this. Okay. In the global economy, there's a positive outlook, but there's a problem of geopolitical tensions and geopolitical tension, protectionism, Trump talking too much about tariff, trade. This will not help. So Russia-Ukraine war coming down, Israel-Iran war coming down, and stabilizing of economy, that might help in the positive churning of the global economy. Let's see when this will happens, because if this does not happen, this will hamper the emerging economies like India, Brazil, Russia, China a lot, basically the BRICS countries. So RBI is calling to urgent need to control inflation, reviving private consumption, exports and investment, and proactive measures needs to be taken. So this is a UPSC mains question. Inflation and investment are key drivers for economic growth. Discuss the challenges posed by inflation shocks on private investment and fiscal spending with reference to recent RBI analysis. Now let's move in towards the important editorial. Now this editorial seems to be very positive, and India-China reset needs to be bold and new thinking. This is by Sudhindra Kulkarni, and he was a closer to the late Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee. And today we also At Christmas Day, we also celebrate Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji also. So in this context, this article has come, I think, because he was very closely associated with Atal Bihari Vajpayee. Now he talks very positively, that India-China relationship, good things have started. The Prime Minister Modi and Xi Jinping, they met at the 16th BRICS summit at Kazan. The de-engagement proposals and de-engagement was signed. That agreement was signed. A lot of efforts was done. 21 meetings were done by the External Affairs Ministry. 17 meetings was done by the military commanders. And finally, we have been able to find a solution to it. After that, the meeting happened between National Security Advisor. Then a meeting happened, the National Security Advisor was there in China for the special representative meeting. Then the statements have also come from the External Affairs Minister. Multiple statements have come that, we need to, China saying that we need to work on visa, we also need to work on Mansarovar Yatra and all this. Good relationship is happening, but when it comes to China, I keep saying that China is a dragon with a forked tongue. China, you need to be very cautiously optimistic. Their economy might be slowing down right now, but that does not mean that it cannot pick up and they pick up the arms again. So there are two things which we can do with China as per this author. Author is saying that either we can be, strengthen cooperation for mutual and global benefits, or allow distrust or foster rivalry, risking future military. So I am not saying that we need to, start building military, military conflicts on both the sides. But our focus should be that we strengthen our relationship with China. But it should be based on mutual trust and cooperation. We cannot go blind with China, because if you go blind with China, then, there's a huge problem, specifically when it comes to China. So boundary dispute, the problem is that the unresolved line of action. Just to tell you, line of action is one part, but the China has taken the entire Aksai chain that does not belong to China. So we also need to find the resolution to your McDonald line and Johnson line. Line of action is only the first part, so that has to be resolved. Geopolitical tension. I was just covering the news that China is trying to give J-35 jets to Pakistan. So if it gives giving these jets to Pakistan, they are destabilizing the entire South Asia. So in this environment, when China is giving jets, and China is also trying to have a deal with Taliban, China is also trying to have a deal with Bangladesh, trying to give them weapons or XYZ things. China is also trying to influence in Northeast India. In this entire context, do you think we can have a positive relationship with China? So it is good that we talk about India, China becoming friends and everything, as a hypothetical dream, I would say. But at the end of the day, when it comes to reality, when Xi Jinping meets Modi, we need to find small things first to find the solution, and then probably start dreaming about it. So public perception is that India media portrays anti-China narrative. Indian media is not interested in putting anti-China narrative. China is the one which started the Galwan war. Okay, and China is the one which was using these research vessels in Sri Lanka to snoop on the Indian submarines. So problem is that Indian media was showing what China was doing. When China starts taking positive steps, the Indian media will also change. Okay, so China's indifference to India's concern is a major problem. Okay, so proposed steps address security concerns specifically related to Pakistan, supports India's global role in terms of United Nations, respect India as an equal in growing. These are bare minimum things. They also need to they take the stand on the Bangladesh in terms of India. Now China is also playing a big geopolitical game. Their game in trade with India is very different, and their game with India in the geopolitical neighbors is very different. China does not want India to grow, and they want to strangle India. So until unless this particular point will come, there cannot be a bond-homie relationship between India and China. Now, India and Russia, the relationship between India and Russia is because both the countries want to grow. But India and China, the problem is China wants to use India for their growth, but they don't want India to grow. That is the major problem. Okay. So India's step avoid counterproductive alliances like Quad. I don't think so this is happening, and I will never even tell this. So the author is saying that we need to come out of Quad, or we need to avoid Quad. Quad, see, China's intention in South Asia, everybody knows. So coming out of Quad would be one of the biggest blunders and a strategic mistake. Adhere to one China policy. It is basically saying that India should say Taiwan belongs to China. So very aggressive steps have been suggested by the author. Neutralize narratives, curb India-China rhetoric. We are not doing India-China rhetoric. The China itself is doing anti-India narrative or rhetoric. Unless China comes out of this wolf warrior diplomacy and the steps it takes to counter India, this will not change. So these are very good steps, I guess. but it can be only taken when China changes. If China is not changing, and probably after 6 months or 1 year, if small steps can be taken in a positive direction, then this might happen. Otherwise, I don't think so India is coming out of Quad or that one China policy. So trust building initiative. So this can be the start. Infrastructure and technology, India's growing market, global cooperation, revive Bangladesh, China, India, Myanmar. Now just tell me how this would be revived. Bangladesh is right now anti-India. China, Myanmar, there's a problem of military junta plus rebels. So Bangladesh and Myanmar is gone. So it becomes China, India. So China, India diplomatic relationship and trade relationship is already going. So when you talk about BCIM, that you want to revive the BCIM, Bangladesh under Mohammed Yunus is anti-India. There is no doubt about it. So he is in a close hands and he wants to revive the relationship with Pakistan, which did the Operation Searchlight under General Tika Khan, killed 3 million Bangladeshis. So Mohammed Yunus wants the best friend, Shehbaz Sharif. Mohammed Yunus is a deep state asset of the Americans. This is also very much clear. He is allying Jamaat-e-Islami, and recently they are also asking for the extradition of Sheikh Hasina. That was the last nail in the coffin. So with this is very difficult to do in the current context. Myanmar, still we can work, and if we are able to find some resolution, Myanmar Act East policy can be strengthened. So immediate action, restart flights, ease visa restriction, media and personal exchange. Problem is when it comes to media and personal exchanges, most of the Chinese intelligence people or intelligence spies, they use this, come to India and start snooping and spying. So we also need to check that. Lift ban on Chinese app. I will not suggest this. Lifting the ban on Chinese apps, you're opening the Pandora box again, and can be a huge problem. But these are some of the steps which has been suggested. So in conclusion, bold steps are essential for breakthrough in relation. State visits by Xi Jinping or PM in 2025. So over a period of time, the relationship can be strengthened, taking small steps. These are very aggressive steps which has been suggested by the author. It would be very difficult to do them as of right now. Probably in the future, steps can be taken. Okay, this is a UPSC mains question. Discuss the challenges and opportunities in resetting India-China relation in the context of global and regional stability. You can go through the question. PDF is there. I've already explained. So you can write your answers accordingly. Okay. In the extra mile, you have this. Why are activists opposing Election Commission election rule amendment? Please go through it. And ICANN 2.0, it comes on the YouTube channel. Please go through these videos also. So guys, thank you very much. I'll just take certain comments which have been put. So that is, sir, is the equipment quality and technology standard of fighter planes of China similar to the Americans? I don't think so. I have this doubt because when the China trade with other countries, the quality of product will not be the standards. Yes, I also feel. Pakistan with Yunus is clearly two-faced. He's showing his true colors. Without any doubt, Yunus is definitely not 2 colors, 5, 6 colors. Okay, so with this wonderful thought, signing off. Jai Hind everyone. I hope you enjoyed the lecture, and we'll keep meeting. We'll meet tomorrow at 10 a.m. and take care, and please like the session, share the session, please press the bell icon and kindly comment, and please ask one of your friend to join the Daily Decode. This is how our family will increase. Yesterday some of the students have come. One student I met, he came from Whitefield to meet and wanted to discuss geopolitics, and we sat. So if you are a near one, you can definitely come and meet. Take care and bye bye.